Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how you can create a dashboard inside of Excel. And so some of the topics that I'm going to be covering are creating pivot tables, adding interactive data cards with the pivot tables, adding slicers, and finally just some overall dashboard styling techniques. And so I'm going to be providing timestamps in the description below so you can navigate around the video, do whatever you want. And so if you want to learn these topics, then I encourage you to follow along with the video because you're going to be seeing these topics being used in action. And so I encourage you to watch until the end because I'm going to create a fully worked out interactive dashboard. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Alright, so I'm using a dataset from Kaggle on the data science salaries. It basically shows like the different salaries based on different positions. And so you can download this data set in the link in the description below where I provided it. And so first things first, I'm gonna format this as a table just to make it look neater. And so after I do that, I'm gonna start creating some pivot tables. And so as I create pivot tables, I'm going to be creating charts on the side, and then I'm going to be copying and pasting those visuals into the dashboard, which has all the visuals, all the different kinds of visuals on a single page. So I'm going to do insert and then click on pivot table and then go to new worksheet or existing worksheet, and then click on OK. And then after that, it's going to create a new sheet for you. And so I want to get the salaries based on the job title. So first I'm going to drag in the job title into the rows, and then I'm going to drag in the salary into the values. And right now it's giving me some salaries, but I actually want to average. So I'll hit on this drop down arrow, click on value field settings, and then go to average and click on OK. And so it got you the average of the salaries. And so that's looking pretty good. But actually, I realized there's actually another column called the salary in USD, which is the US currency. So actually, I'm going to get rid of this. That's my bad. I'm actually going to be using this column called salary in US dollars because I want it to be in the US currency. So I'm gonna just quickly change it to average again, and then I go to value field settings, go to number format, go to currency because we want this to be seen in dollars. And then I'm not gonna show any decimal places. I'm just gonna do to 0 decimal places. Click on OK, and that looks pretty good. Okay, and so now I'm gonna create a pivot chart on this table. So you have to click inside of the table and then go to the ribbon that says pivot table analyze. You click on that, and then after that you have to click on the pivot chart button, and then I'm gonna go with the bar chart. So I'll click on this one. And so it's getting, like, from the visual you can see like it looks really cluttered and messy because there's like a ton of different data science positions out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to only show the top 10 average salaries based on the job titles because it's going to make my visual a lot neater because there's only 10 job titles in the x-axis. So then you could go to click on the row labels header and then click on the drop down arrow, and then after that hover over value filters and click on top 10, and then so it's going to say show the top 10 items by the average salary in USD, which is what I want. So I'm going to click on OK, and then makes it look a lot neater. And I'm going to worry about the styling later, but that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move on to I'm gonna create another pivot table now. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to the original data and then do the same process again. Click on insert, click on pivot table, click on OK, and it's gonna create a new page. And then this time I want to see the average salary based on the experience level. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag in experience level into the rows, and then I'm going to salary. I'm gonna drag the salary into values, and then so it's getting the sum again because the sum is the default, but I don't want that, so I'm gonna change it to average, and then I'm gonna format it again. I'm gonna change it. Click on number format, and then go to currency, and then I'm gonna do 0 decimal places. Then that looks better. So you can see that the experience levels, it has these little abbreviations, and so some people might not understand what they mean, but based on the Kaggle description, the dataset description, basically EN is entry level, EX is the executive level, and then the MI is the mid level, and SE is the senior level. And so I want to change these. I want to change it. So I go here back to the original data. So I'm gonna click on C2 and then do Control Shift on your keyboard. Do Control Shift and then down arrow key, and then after that you do Control H, and then it already, because I did this before, it already filled it out for me. EN entry level. That's what we want. Replace all. And instead we made 88 replacements, and so that's looking better, and so there's no issues with that. And so we do the same thing again. Click on C2, then do Control Shift down arrow key, and then Control H, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for MI, and then I'm gonna fast forward this process. Okay, so I finished changing the values. And so if I want to double check, I could click on this drop down arrow, and you can see that all of the values have been changed. So now we go back to the pivot table page on sheet 2, and then, oh wait, I'm gonna have to, it didn't update in this pivot table because I edited it in this sheet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna try another way to create a pivot table. So I'm gonna go to Power Pivot and then click on Manage, and then it's gonna open a new window. But before I do that, I'll close that out. I'll click on the Add to Data model inside the Power Pivot ribbon, and so now you can see the data inside Power Pivot. And so then now you can create a pivot table. So you could click on this button over here, and then I'm gonna say new worksheet. And now if I click on this dragging experience level, okay, so now it updated. So yeah, now I'm just gonna drag in the salary in USD into values, but I want the average, and then I'm gonna format so that it's in currency. And then, so that's looking a lot better now. And so because there's only 4 labels here, I'm not going to create a bar chart because it's going to be I feel like it's going to be too empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a donut chart. So to do that, I'm going to click on inside of here, and then it's going to give you, if you could see my screen up here, it's going to give you the pivot table analyze ribbon. So you have to click on that and then go to pivot chart, and then click on pie, and then click on the diagram all the way to the right, and click on OK. And so that's looking really good now. And so we'll worry about styling later, but now let's move on to creating our next pivot table. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to the original data page, and then I'm gonna click on insert again and create a new pivot table. And so this time I want to see the salaries by the employment type. So I'm gonna drag that into the rows, and then so I see like there's initials, these little initials again, but some people might not know what they mean. So I'm gonna have to replace all the values again. So to do that, I'm gonna go back to the original page, and then go to where the employment type column is, which is in column D, and then click on the cell D2, then do Control Shift, down arrow key, then do Control H, and then so first I'm gonna find the initials FT, and what that means is basically the full-time job. And so I'm gonna do replace all, and then after that I'll do CT, and that's basically the contract. Then replace all. Then after that I'm gonna do, wait, let me check what else we need to do. So there's FL and PT. Okay, so FL is basically freelancer. So I'll do that and then replace all. And then the last one is the PT. And so that one is part-time. So replace all, and then if we go back to the drop down arrow, all the initials have been replaced, which is what we want. And so now I'm gonna go back, and I think this is like the same issue as before. So I'm just gonna delete the sheet again, and I'm gonna have to create the pivot table from the Power Pivot. So I'm gonna go to the Power Pivot window, and then click on pivot table again, click on OK, and then drag in employment type. Oh wait, it didn't update because I forgot to do something inside of Power Pivot. So I go back and I have to click on refresh. And then so yeah, now you can see the initials have been removed. And so I'm gonna click on pivot table and then OK. And then now I'm going to drag in employment type, and so now it's been updated, and so that's what we want. And so I'm gonna change this to average again, and then change it to currency, and so that's looking pretty good. But this time I'm gonna create a bar chart instead of a donut chart. Like, I know there's only 4 labels, but I want there to be more variance in the type of charts that I use in the dashboard. So I'm gonna create a bar chart. So you click inside the table, and you have to go up here. I don't know if you can see it, but you have to go up to the top and click on the pivot table analyze ribbon, and then you have to click on pivot chart over here. And then after that I'm gonna go to, I think last time I made a column chart. This time I'm gonna make it horizontal now. So I'm gonna click on bar, and so I'm gonna go with this one. And then that's looking pretty good. I'll worry on the styling later, but we got our chart in, which is cool. So now I'm gonna create data card references in a new page. So to do that, I'm gonna go back to the Power Pivot window, which is over here, and then I'm going to create another pivot table. And so I'm gonna create data cards on the maximum salary and the average salary. And so if you don't know what data card is, you'll see later when I'm styling the dashboard. But if we want to create the data card, we need to make references by making a pivot table. So I'm gonna drag in the salary in USD into values, and then I'm going to go to value field settings, and then I'm gonna change it to max because I want to get the maximum salary. And then if I click on OK, and then that's our first pivot table. And then I'm gonna create another pivot table inside here to show the average salary data card. So I'm gonna go back to the Power Pivot window, and then go to pivot table, click on existing worksheet this time, and then click on OK. So it's gonna create a pivot table here, and then I'll drag in salary again, but this time I want the average. And I'm gonna format the number and I'll also format this one. So now I need to put this number outside of the pivot table, because when I create a data card, if I try to reference inside of the pivot table, we're gonna get some errors. So I'm gonna go outside of the pivot table and then click on equals, and then just click on this one and click enter. And then I'll format this cell by going to this box over here and then clicking on currency, and then I'll click on more accounting formats and then change it down to 0 decimal places. So I'll do the same thing for the average salary. And so now that I have these data card references, I could start styling the dashboard. But before I do that, I'm gonna clean up the Excel page a bit. So I have like a bunch of sheets, and I'm gonna start naming them to make it easier for me to navigate. Okay, and this one we didn't use, so I'm gonna delete that. And then I'll move the original data up here. And now I'm gonna create a new page or a new sheet called dashboard. And then I'm gonna get rid of the grid lines. So go to view, click on grid lines, gets rid of it, makes it blank so that it looks cleaner. And now I'm going to create a title called Data Science Salaries. And then I'll make the whole row dark blue, just like that. That's looking pretty good. And then I'm gonna make the font size a bit bigger. Then let's see, I'll make the font white. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And so I'm gonna leave that alone now. I'm gonna have to go to the pivot tables, and then I'm gonna have to copy down each of these visuals and paste them into the dashboard sheet. So let's start with the salary by job title. So I'm gonna get rid of the field buttons. Then I'm gonna get rid of the legend because we don't need that. And after that, I'm gonna get rid of the title because we don't need that either. Then I'm gonna change the style to make it look a bit better. I'll go with this one. That one looks alright. And then I'll do Control C, go to dashboard, do Control V, And then I'm gonna insert a shape. I'm gonna insert the rectangle with the rounded corners. And then I'm going to make the shape fill white, make the outline into no outline. Then I'm gonna give it a shadow. So I think that looks pretty good. And so now I'm gonna call this top 10 average paying salaries, and I can't see it, but that's probably because it's white. So change to black, then I'll bold it. I'll make the font size like 14, and then I'll drag this into this little shape that we created here, but I'll fast forward this. Okay, so that's looking pretty good now, but I noticed that there's an outline in the graph, so I'm gonna go to design, or no, format, and then the format ribbon, and then do no outline. It's gonna get rid of that outline around the graph. It makes it a lot neater. And so I also wanna change the graph a bit, because I want to make it from the high salary all the way down to low salary. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the pivot table, and then click on sort, do sort largest to smallest. And so now it's changed it. And so now I'm gonna group the chart and the shape together so that they move as one piece. So I'm gonna click on the chart, and then hold Control and click on the shape, and do right click and do group. And so now when you move them, they move as one piece, which is pretty cool. And then I'll center this. And so we got our first visual down. So now let's move on to the next one. So now I want to get the visual of the salary by the experience level. So I'm gonna go to the pivot table page, and then click on this donut chart. Then go to the format. Go to the pivot chart analyze ribbon, and then click on field buttons again. It's gonna get rid of the gray stuff. Then click on the title, delete, because we don't need it. And then I'm gonna add some data labels like that. And so it basically shows like the percentage, which I think is cool. And then I'm gonna try to get a style. So I'll do this one. I kind of like this one. So I'll click on this one, and then you could choose whatever style you want. Then I'll do Control C. Then Control V. Like that. And then now I'm gonna copy this, the visual that I made before, Control C and Control V. Then I'm gonna get rid of the visual by deleting that. And then I'll change this to the employment type. So it's, it's the experience level, sorry. So it's the average salary by experience level. And then gotta move this, bring to front. And then I'll fast forward this process. Okay, so now I've centered it a bit into the shape. So now I'm gonna group it together again. So I click on the shape, the chart, and then I hold Control and then hit on the shape and do right click and then group them together. so they move as one piece. So now that we got that, let's move on to the next chart. So now I gotta get the chart for the employment type. So I'll go to that pivot chart. Then I'm gonna make it look cleaner again by getting rid of the gray stuff and then getting rid of the legend and then getting rid of the title. And I'm also gonna make this from the highest to lowest. So to do that, I click inside here, click on sort largest to smallest. Or sorry, no, I'll sort from smallest to largest, like that. So that's looking pretty good. And then I'll change the style a bit. Let me see. I'll just go with this one. And then I'll add a data label on the outside end. So that's looking pretty good. And now I'm just gonna have to do Control C, then Control V. And then I have to copy and paste the shape again. Control C, Control V, then get rid of the pie chart. And then change this to the average salary by employment type. Then I drag this, I have to do bring to front. And then I'm gonna try to center it, but I'll fast forward the process. Okay, so I centered it now, and I'm gonna get rid of the outline again. So click on the chart, click on format, click on no outline, and that makes it look cleaner. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna group them again. Click on the chart, hold Control, click on the shape, and then after that, click on group, and then so they're one piece. And so that's looking really good. So I'm just gonna create some data card references now. So I'm actually gonna create another shape for that. It's a smaller one. And then go to white. And then I'm gonna copy and paste them because I'm gonna have two data cards. Then now I'm gonna go to insert text box, click on anywhere. Oh wait, no, sorry, not a text box. I need to create another shape. So I'm gonna click on shapes, click on insert. I'll do it differently. I'll do no fill, and then like you still see the outline, but I'll enter the text in first, and then after I enter in the text, I'm gonna get rid of the outline. So here's what I mean by that. So I click on here, then I click on formula bar, click on equals, go to data card reference, click on this one, click on enter. So you got your max salary. That was your max salary. And so now I get rid of the outline because I can see the text. So I'm gonna get rid of the outline, and that's looking pretty good now. So I'm gonna make the text bigger. Then so I got my number, and so I'm gonna put it into the box, and then I'm gonna fast forward this process. And so now I've put in the number into the shape, and so I'm gonna do the same thing with the average salary card. So I'll do Control C, Control V, but now I'll get rid of that, do equals, and then go to data card reference, click on the cell, and do enter. And then I'll change the font again. And now Now I'll fast forward the process of styling this a bit. Okay, so I've got the two cards, but now I'm gonna add like the label of like what each card represents. So now I have to add the text box. And so I'll call this the average salary in US currency. Then I'll make this a bit bigger. Then I'll do Control C, Control V, and change this to max salary. And now I just need to drag this into here, like so. And now that I got that, I'm gonna group it together. So I'm gonna click on the dollar, click on the hold control, click on the average salary, and then click on the shape, and then do right click and group it. And I'll do the same for this one. Okay, so I got it grouped together now. So that's looking really good now. And I'll move it a bit to the top right. Yeah, it's looking pretty good now. Now I'm gonna add some I'm gonna make this dashboard interactive now by adding slicers. So to create slicer, I'm gonna click on one of the charts in the dashboard, go to the pivot chart analyze ribbon, and go to insert slicer. And then I'm gonna create slicer on the year. And then I'm gonna have to make more connections on the slicer. So you go to report connections, then check all of these boxes. Click on OK. And so now when you change the year, everything's gonna change, including these data cards. But I actually noticed an issue here. So when I change the years, this chart isn't actually being changed as well. So I think that's because, like, when I was creating the pivot tables previously, like when I created the experience level, the data card references, and the employment types, I had to go to the Power Pivot window and I had to insert the tables from the Power Pivot window. But then when I created the job title pivot table, I just created the pivot table from the original data worksheet. So I'm actually gonna have to backtrack here. So I'm gonna have to create a new sheet, and then I'll go to the Power Pivot window and then click on Manage. And then I'm gonna have to create a pivot table from here, from this window. And so I'll do existing worksheet, and then I'll drag in the job title and the salary. And so this way, because I made the pivot table from the Power Pivot window, the slicer is gonna see the connection. When I click on report connection, it's gonna show up here. So let me go back to the pivot table page. So now I'm gonna change this. I'm just gonna do some formatting again, like I did before. And we want the top 10. So I'll go here, value filters, top 10. And so now that's what we want. So if I'm gonna delete this sheet now because we can't make a connection on this chart. So I'm gonna delete that, and then I'll change this one to salary by the job title, then click enter. And then now I'm just gonna quickly create the chart again by going to pivot table analyze, pivot chart, and then this one. Then I'm gonna style it a bit. Okay, so now that's what we want. Like, I know it looks the same, but
But now because I created this pivot table from Power Pivot, I'm gonna be able to create a connection on the slicer. And so I'm gonna delete this chart. And then I'm gonna paste in this one. Like that. And so now when I click on the slicer again and go to report connections, and so now if you scroll down you can see the chart in the list. So I just click the checkbox and then click on OK. And so now whenever I click on different years, this chart is gonna change too. So now I'm gonna center this into this shape. So I'm gonna fast forward that. Okay, so I centered the chart into the shape, and I also grouped them together so they will move as one piece now. And so now I'm gonna create another slicer based on the company size. So now I just repeat the same process again. So I'm gonna click on one of the charts, click on the pivot chart analyze ribbon, and then click on insert slicer. And this time I'll do company size. Click OK. And now we need to establish the connections. So I'll check all of these boxes now. And so now if I change it, everything's gonna change. So that's what we want. That's looking really good. So now I'm gonna rearrange this everything in the dashboard, because right now it's not looking, it's like I got all the elements there, but it's not looking that neat. So I'm gonna first put this year over here, and then I'm gonna go to the slicer ribbon at the top, click on columns, and then click on the up arrow till you get 3 columns, and then I'm gonna make the height of each of the little boxes a bit bigger. And so I'll repeat the same thing for company size. You gotta click on the company size, the slicer, and then do 3 columns, and then make the height bigger. And so that's looking really good now. So I'm gonna change the caption of the slicer. So I go to slicer settings, and then I'm just gonna change this to year, and then I'm gonna change the caption for this one to company size. So that's looking really good. I'll drag it to the side, something like that. Okay, that looks good now. And then I'm gonna move the shapes around. And so you could play around with it. At this point I'm just trying to make it look neater by changing the size of all the elements. You could do whatever you want. And actually I'm gonna change the color, because I don't really like this color scheme. Doesn't really go well with the colors, the blue colors. So I'm gonna go to design, go to change colors, and then I'll go with this one. I like that one. Okay, so now that's, I know it's not perfect, but you get the idea. We made a dashboard that's fully interactive. So whenever I click on any of these, it changes everything in the sheet, which is really cool. And so yeah, that's it for this video. And I know this tutorial is getting really long, so if you're still watching this part, thank you for not clicking away from the video. It takes me a lot of time to make and edit these kinds of videos, and so yeah, if you like this type of content, hope you consider subscribing to stay up to date. And if you have like any project ideas that you want me to make, then you could drop them down in the comments below, and then I'll make like a dashboard on the ideas that you guys suggest. So yeah, thanks for watching this video again, and I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.